Hi everyone, so this is your first video in integrated math, and today we're going to talk about factoring. Factorizing is what you learned last year, but I'm going to start right at the beginning. So in class today we worked on pulling out a GCF or an HCF, which you called it last year, a GCF, a greatest common factor first, and we're always going to do that. That's always going to be our first stop in factoring. But today we're going to be looking at factoring trinomials. Now remember, we said a trinomial has three separate terms, but we're going to look at trinomials that are written in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, okay? Now, this is just a general form of a trinomial. A, b, and c are constants, okay? All right, and all that means is that they're numbers. Okay, a constant is just a number. Constants are things that don't change, and the number 2 can't change to the number 5. Okay, so they are constants. Notice it has this square term. I'm going to call that the quadratic term. We'll go back to that another time, okay? This one, this x has an exponent really of a 1, but we don't write 1. We're going to call this the linear term. And you notice the c has no variable. It actually does have a variable. It has x to the 0 power, which we know is 1. It's the constant term. Okay? All right. So a trinomial, the form that we want when we're factoring, it has to begin with an x squared, okay? An x squared term. So if the x squared is over here, you want to put it first, okay? It's followed by a term containing an x. I called that the linear term. So you want to go in descending order by exponent when we're factoring. And it ends with a constant. Sometimes it doesn't though, okay? That constant could be 0 and maybe that won't be there. And we're going to talk about those this year, when we factor as well. Okay. So a trinomial can be written as the product of two binomials. That's called factoring. Factoring. Or what you called it last year was factorize. I think I'm going to stick with factoring, okay? So here's the trinomial piece. Okay? And here's the product of two binomials. Now the other day in class, we multiplied these two binomials by foiling, right? So we did that by foiling. So foiling brought us to the trinomial. Now we're going to be working with the trinomial and turning it into two binomials. So we're going to be doing foiling backwards, okay? All right, so in order to be good at foiling backwards, you have to have a skill. You have to be able to follow a specific rule with the numbers. So let's look at the first one. We're looking for, and I think I wrote in your notes, two numbers that have a sum of 11, okay, and product of 24. That just means they add to 11 and they multiply.